Good morning, everybody. Thank you for taking the time out of your day this morning on the last Tuesday in February, early 2024, to join us for this webinar on taking a person-centered approach. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Adam Blaze. I'm the Chief Executive at Activity Alliance. Thankfully, for all of you, you won't be hearing too much from me today, but I will cover off a quick housekeeping section at the start and a bit of an introduction summary of our approach before handing over to some internal and external colleagues who are real experts in this space and can hopefully help all of us understand a bit more than we currently do on this topic. So in terms of housekeeping, everyone is automatically muted. Everyone has their cameras turned off, so you don't need to worry about your cameras or be muted. Live captioning is available, so if you need that, it is available. And the webinar is being recorded, so that's for people to be able to access it afterwards. So this webinar is being recorded, but given that your cameras are off, there shouldn't be any issues there. If you have a question about anything that you hear or anything you think of during the session, please use the chat box. We will endeavour to answer as many of those questions via the chat box as possible. If there's some key things that are coming out and we have time at the end, as I'm summarising and signing off, I will come back to some of those questions, but please use the chat box to ask any questions. And if you can, during the session, we are going to run some polls, so it'd be really great if you are able to participate in those polls to give us a sense of what you're thinking on this topic. So that's the housekeeping done. In terms of what we do at Activity Alliance and our approach to this area, I guess I'd start by saying historically sport has tended to use demographics to group people together, whether that's disabled people or women and girls, lower socioeconomic households. It's done it that way, and it's boxed people off by one characteristic, and that isn't very helpful, because people's lives usually aren't defined by a single characteristic. So for disabled people, they're influenced by many characteristics. And at Activity Alliance, we absolutely try and take a person-centered approach in all of our work, where we look beyond a single demographic and think about the things that are influencing people's lives. And external partners are doing a really good job in this space as well. So we've got colleagues from the Black country who'll come and talk about the work that they're doing. But for us, I want to give an example from one thing that influences my work in this space as Chief Executive of Activity Alliance. So we come together with Sporting Equals, Women in Sport and Street Games, who are all partners that are working in similar ways, but maybe with different people, but have real alignment in our work. So instead of thinking about just disabled people, we'll work with Sporting Equals and Women in Sport and Street Games, and bring together our expertise and not just think about a single demographic, and think about the people that we're all trying to influence and how we can work better together. And we do that in a number of ways. So we do that as chief execs and how we can strategically align our organizations, but we're also coming together as teams on research and insight. So how can we produce better research that understands people not just by a single demographic? We're also coming together in terms of place-based working. So how can we all work together better in a place and understand the things that influence a person's life, and also on a policy level. So we're coming together as equality organizations to try and remove that single demographic approach. So that's a bit of a snapshot to some of the headlines of how this influences my work. I'm going to pass over to my colleague, Andrew Whitaker, who will give you a bit more insight into intersectionality and what that means for us and our work.
Brilliant. Thank you, Adam. If we can move on to the next slide, please, Alex, that'd be wonderful. So, yeah, my name's Andrew Whitaker, work for Activity Alliance. I'm the Strategic Partnership Advisor for the Northwest and the Northeast. And as you just have a look at the screen in front of you, I just kind of want to start off with really clarifying what is intersectionality. And it was a term that was coined by Kimberly Crenshaw in 1989, and she described how interlocking systems of power affect those who are most marginalized by society. And intersectionality is relative because it displays how different protected characteristics, components intersect to shape the experiences of individuals. And obviously, Kimberly Crenshaw used intersectionality to show how race, class, gender, and other systems combine to shape experiences of many. So I think we all know that intersectionality is fluid and can change over time with different situations. And on that point, as a white male wheelchair user, I just want to share a quick example of how the intersections have helped to shape me. And you'll see on there's little circles as well, and they're obviously intersections that would have had an effect, but also ones we're not aware of that would have guided that. So for the ones that know me, I'm a jack of all trades, master of none, sports kind of person. Going to that, cricket defined me. I played disabled cricket for quite some time, and as you can see on the screen, intersections changed that. I had my firstborn came along, started a new role, found I didn't have as much time to be active, so obviously guided me in kind of and shaped me in my approach. I then, for some reason, got landed an email about trying powerlifting, which was just amazing. And obviously allowed me to be able to lift, obviously, and compete with disabled people. But unfortunately, the Paralympic Games wasn't the avenue for me due to my impairment and classification. But however, what was a great window that was opened, because I don't like leaving on a negative, is now I get the opportunity to share the platform of lifting with my brother, and also it helps to support my long-term health conditions as well. So that's just a quick scenario, really high level around kind of how them intersections help to shape me. And when we move on to the next slide, what I want you to do now is just take a few moments, and obviously for the people that feel comfortable, please do share in the chat. Obviously, if you don't want to, that's absolutely fine. But I just want you to think about and choose a time how intersections might have impacted your experiences, and whether or not that be at work, when you're taking part in sport or physical activity, or with your family. So the awkward silence usually helps a little bit, but as people are jotting them down and colleagues are kind of monitoring the chat, it will be obviously, yeah, great if you want to share them with us, but obviously likewise if you don't as well, that's absolutely fine. Okay, I think we've all been awkward silence enough, so we'll move on to the next slide, if that's all right, Alex. Just again, for the ones that don't know, we do our annual disability activity survey, and these are the top 7 themes. I would invite people to go and check that out on our website for further detail. But the next slide then is where so our annual disability survey has been running for 4 years, and we've always had the demographic data, but what's been really super brilliant is we've been able to bring that 4 years of ADAS findings together into this demographic report. So it was released in September last year, and it is our first time that we've displayed the findings this way. And rather than running through loads and loads of slides, loads of presentations, I thought we'd do it, pick out some of the key findings in the way of a poll. Now, obviously, if people are struggling to access the poll, again, please do pop them in your answers in the chat, but hopefully it'll be a little bit of a fun way for us to explore some of the findings. And as on cue, well done, Alex. So the first question you should be able to see is how many disabled people live in England. We have tried to help. There's multiple guesses in there. Well, there's quite a few responses flying through really quick. So we'll just slow down a little bit. We'll give it another few seconds just to see if I've got any more. Unfortunately, there's no prizes, just the prizes that you know, and take the knowledge away with you, hopefully. Brill, fantastic. Well, thank you very much for everyone taking part in that one. I just want to confirm that the answer is 13.3 million people. So for the ones that would want to know that, but actually what we found from 2021, there's been an increase of 12.2 million people to 13.3 million people, which is 1.1 million people over the year of COVID, which is obviously quite substantial. And that information has come from the Department for Work and Pensions Family Resource. So the other one to highlight in this one is also through our insight that 73% of disabled people have more than one impairment, and obviously the more impairments, the more likely to be inactive. Could we have question number 2, please? Thank you. So what percentage of disabled women are likely to be active at home using online or digital tools? Again, just give it a few seconds. There's quite a lot of you that answered the first question, so. Okay, I think we're coming towards the end. Brilliant. Hold it there, that's wonderful. The answer is 28%. So again, what great insight for us helped to deliver a more inclusive way of being active. And disabled women are more likely than disabled men to find information out about sport, physical activity through friends, family, social media, local posters and leaflets as well. So hopefully that helps to add a little bit there. And if we move on to the next one, please, Alex. Fantastic. So true or false, ethnically diverse people are more likely to report that the pandemic affects their health condition, impairment or illness. Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. Everyone that answered got that one right. That is true, as you would have thought with the stats that are in the question as well. So yeah, fantastic. If we can move on to the next question. And on that one, disabled people from ethnically diverse backgrounds often face additional barriers of being active related to physical activity and mental health and the impact of the pandemic. So they show a higher level of interest of influencing the type of activities that are involved with and some positive trends in representation. So what percentage of trans people in the UK consider themselves to have a disability? It's quite evenly split on the answers here. Last few people. Right. Fantastic. I think we're there. Well done, everyone. The main one that came out was 33% of people consider themselves, trans people to consider themselves to have a disability. Brilliant. Move on to the last question, if that's all right, Alex. So on average, how much more do disabled people pay per month for the same standard of living as non-disabled people? And if you read our demographic report, all these you should have got 100%. So we'll see. Okay, we're just coming towards the end of these. Few more people. Fantastic. We'll hold it there. Again, just outvoted, so well done, everybody. Again, with the right answer is £975. And just remember that's an average, though. So obviously, some people will be experiencing higher costs. But if you want more information, scope, website provides some great insight into that cost and where it comes from. But on a note, we want to know, obviously we want to know that obviously 4 in 5 disabled people want to be more active, and we need to take a more person-centered approach. So with that in mind, if we are okay to move on to the next slide and kind of why we're here today. So we know it's not fair or right that disabled people are the least active in society, and we all have a role to play in addressing these long-term standard inequalities. So Activity Alliance have developed a resource and 4 pillars that we believe to consider when taking a person-centered approach. So I'll just go through these ones. So for the first one, understanding. So what we're talking about here is about having a strong understanding around disabled people's preferences, the needs that influence their influences is vital, and to ensure that your programs and services deliver positive experiences for everyone. So take time to understand people's values, lifestyles, motivations, and barriers to be active, and that remember disabled people are all a part of all target audiences. So again, just a couple of questions to ask yourself here is, how robust is your insight on disabled people, and can you evidence this insight, and how are you applying it into the work that you do? So we're going to come on to some resources later that'll help to add further value to these. Next one is around connect. So there are many ways to effectively reach people from diverse populations. Firstly, you must identify your relevant audience, so along with their support services or networks to connect them to, and give individual supporters and organisations a platform to co-design your activities. So disabled people are great problem solvers, and we face challenges most days in most situations, and so let us help you to design them out. So connect with disabled people, and then again to ask yourself, how connected are you currently with your local support network of organisations, and are your current partnerships really reaching disabled people or allies and advocates of disabled people? And then again, as I just said there, about disabled people's views and experiences to help shape and work together. Next one is around engage. So make sure that you collaborate with them new connections once you're forming them, and listen and consult with disabled people using their experience and lived experiences to co-design. Activities that have been co-designed will benefit people from all backgrounds, not just disabled people. I know we say that quite a bit, but if we can make it inclusive for disabled people, it will help support wider communities. And in this one, when you're engaging, look at how accessible your current programs are. Are they accessible for disabled people? And how does your organisation prioritise disability inclusion and diversity in its approach? And the final one is around learning and sharing. So, so really important. Let's review your programs and processes regularly. Success is, it's not all about numbers. I think we all know that. But ask people about their lived experiences, and really utilize the power of storytelling. And so people can become your allies and advocates of your activity, and help to really showcase the impact and learning. And don't forget to share your success. You have a duty to share your success with your current members, but also your network and partners, using a multitude of platforms. And again, finally, do you know what a good service looks like for your audience? And are your evaluation methods accessible? So again, like I said, I'm going to touch on some resources later that will help to support that. And finally, as a handover to Mike and Bethune, if we could have the next slide, please. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Andrew. I'm just going to attempt to share my screen while I'm doing this. While I'm trying to do that, I would just kind of say, if anyone hasn't checked out some of the insight that Activity Alliance have, please do go to the website and check out their annual report. As an insight person, insight person. As an insight person, it's very much a kind of treasure trove of information, and the fact that it's done annually is just fantastic. Hi, I'm Mike Salmon. I'm Director of Impact at Active Black Country, and I'm going to talk, along with my colleague Bethy, a little bit about some of the work that we've done in the Black Country on the GOGA project, with a view to addressing intersectionality and developing a person-centered approach. I think the first thing to say about GOGA was that it's a lot of fun, as all activities should be, but it also listed lots and lots of learnings that have ultimately informed quite significant parts of our strategic approach, and our approach to place-based work as well. I won't go into in too much detail, but I'm just going to give a quick overview of the program of work that we undertook. So our objective was to explore the potential of faith leaders and faith centres in Wolverhampton to reach the most inactive, disabled and non-disabled people. And as I say, I'll kind of spare the whole details, but safe to say, COVID changed our entire kind of method of delivery for the program for the better, if I'm being honest. And we ended up with kind of a real mixed bag in terms of how we approached the task. We had a workforce centered approach, which kind of went down the route of social prescribing, which I'll go into in a bit more detail in a second. We had a community centered approach, which was all about being responsive to what we were hearing from the community, kind of reflecting the engaged pillar that Andrew was just talking about. We recruited Bethune to be a community connector, to really kind of embed herself within the communities that we use in faith centres, and that manifested a number of events. We had a kite flying day in the local park. We had a family fun day, which kind of doubled up as a day that gentlemen from the local community and women could, it was mostly gentlemen, could come and get their health checked by a group of retired nurses who used the local parks. It's very much kind of focused on the local community, listening to what people wanted and having that kind of co-design and co-production element. We also had
Mike, sorry to interrupt. I think
Sure.
you're sharing your presenter view for the screen.
My presenter view. Oh dear. Okay, I'll just see if I can change that. Okay, what I might do, I may come out of my slides and just stop sharing to make that easier. So yeah, we also had an asset-centered approach that kind of focused very much on activities within the faith centres themselves. The best example of that has been a program of yoga in Gurdwaras that we did that you'll hear about in just a moment. And we had a set of resources that we developed as well. So as I say, all of this work that we did in Wolverhampton elicited a lot of learnings, so many so that we made the decision to capture them in a toolkit. Conscious that faith centres exist outside of Wolverhampton as well as in them. We wanted to ensure that the learnings that we were collating could be cascaded to any faith centre that was in a position to develop a health and wellbeing offer. Similarly, the engagement work identified a desire for people to be more active at home. So we used some of the funding to develop a platform that people could access wherever they wanted to be more active. So I think kind of there were lots of benefits to working with faith centres, but one thing to definitely say is that they intrinsically care about the health and wellbeing of the local community. And as such, a person-centered approach is something that we didn't necessarily face too many barriers in terms of implementing. The social prescribing element of the program that I referenced earlier is probably the best example of how we sought to influence, I suppose, around incorporating a person-centered approach. So during what feels like and was repeated cycles of kind of national and local lockdowns, we realized that we needed to do something different if we were going to be able to continue doing GOGA. We couldn't do group activities, we couldn't do anything indoors. So we took the learning from another piece of work that we'd done with primary care networks, whereby in effect we were asking faith leaders to take on the role of a social prescriber and use their position and their influence within the community to encourage local people to be more active with the time that they were allowed outside the house. So any faith leader that we worked with had to undergo a training program with us where they went through the GOGA ingredients and the principles of the program. And whilst we didn't necessarily label it as a person-centered approach, those pillars that Andrew went through previously were definitely addressed. So in terms of understand, faith leaders were reminded that they were looking to kind of target certain audiences, and it was important to understand people's preferences along with their lifestyles and their personal barriers to being active. In terms of connect, bear in mind this was during national lockdowns. It was critical that faith leaders were able to engage with communities. They were already doing this through taking their worship online, delivering services via the internet, but we asked faith leaders to develop specific communities around this work, and they did this through Facebook groups, WhatsApp broadcasts that I'd absolutely never heard of before doing this, and through other means as well. In terms of engage, faith leaders were asked to encourage their community to use their outdoors time to be active in the way that best suited them. So all the faith leaders were doing was using their position of influence, I guess, to plant seeds, but it was genuine co-design, in that the participants were choosing what activity it was that they wanted to do. All they were doing was getting the motivation from the faith leader. And in terms of learn and share, a really important one, we asked those taking part to take part in reflective sessions with us to kind of give us an idea of what was working and what wasn't. And that was pretty critical, because it allowed us to kind of keep shaping the offer and deliver a physical activity program during a series of national and local lockdowns. So just to kind of finish off, intersectionality has been something that we've had to consider throughout the course of the program. To give you a bit of background on the Black country, around about half of our population lives in the 10 or 20% most deprived parts of England, and obviously with deprivation comes a lack of disposable income, a higher prevalence of people with one or more health condition. One of our biggest strengths is the diversity of our population, and with that comes lots of barriers to physical activity, and we've had to be aware at all times of those barriers and promoting a person-centered approach with all of our deliveries to ensure that this is addressed. So part of that is making sure that we kind of really fulfill the engage pillar, and Bethany will talk about some of the work that she did with communities in just a moment. We recruited Bethany to do exactly that, to go and talk to the faith centres, understand what they want, what are the barriers that might seem small to us on the face of it, but to them are the difference between taking part and staying at home. To just give two examples, we actually drew down some of the funding prior to the programme starting to do some exploratory engagement, working with a number of faith centres and their congregations to make sure we weren't just imposing activity, but we were promoting some form of co-production wherever possible. And post-COVID, Bethune identified a desire amongst Sikh women for yoga, which you'll hear a lot about in just a moment. There are 14 Gurdwaras in Wolverhampton, a really thriving Indian community. And intersectionality was something that we had to really consider, because the ladies taking part represented a number of minority groups when it comes to representation in physical activity. They were older women, they were Asian, they didn't speak English sometimes. Most of them had health conditions or disabilities that limited their mobility. So a person-centered approach was absolutely critical. And we recruited Debo, who you'll hear from in a moment, who speaks Punjabi. She made it her mission to really get to know the ladies, and that led to a really strong program of yoga across 7 of the city's Gurdwaras, led to a piece of research with the University of Wolverhampton into activity habits of the Sikh community. And I'll stop babbling now, because you've got Bethune to talk a little bit in more detail, and Debo, who's much more interested than me, going to talk about it. So I'll pass on to my colleague Bethune.
Hi, everyone. My name's Bethune, and as Mike rightfully said, I started my work back in 2020 in the midst of COVID, and I was not sure whether or not the project would continue, but there we go. I started to work with communities in lockdown. I currently work as a community connector on a project with the local authorities, volunteer sector organisation, and Active Black Country too. My objective for today is to capture the conversations I had with faith centres, to touch on the myths surrounding our faith groups, and how we can break that down, how we've broken down those barriers. I want to share with you my key learnings, and finally, the importance of person-centered approach to the work that we do. One conversation that I had at the beginning of the project was the shock that the project was actually being funded to work with faith centres. A lot of faith groups have problems obtaining funds in order to do the work they do. So very often they're working on projects with limited amount of money, with people who have limited amount of money. And there comes one of the huge problems that we have and we share, and that we recognized on this project. So I've looked at some myths that we have, and I hope to address those myths. So some of the highlights from these myths were taken from the Department of Community, and they were the same conversations that we had with our faith groups. So one, funders believe that they're not allowed to give money to faith groups because they won't use it in the appropriate way. But thank God, on the GoGo project, we were able to prove this wrong. Activity Alliance funded this project, which ABC, Active Black Country, ran very successfully. The other myth is that they lack expertise or the clout to deliver services. As Mike said, we work collaboratively with our faith groups. We saw that they were experts in their field. We contacted them when we wanted to develop an activity pack, and they were I was really absolutely blown by the information that they had. They were providing food, they were providing support to people who lacked money, lacked finance, but they didn't just deliver the food to the individuals. They understood each individual's needs and work with the individuals. And so they were able to identify exactly what we needed in a pack and how that pack would help individuals who were surviving through COVID. Another myth is that they will use the money for worship. Now, I found the faith groups to be honest people. They utilized relatively small amount of money and maximized the effect that it would have on their communities. Mike mentioned the Come Fly a Kite project, and one participant said, the kites were very nice. I enjoyed flying it. We ran a lot and it was good. I haven't flown a kite for many years, loved it. Done more steps today than I do during my work. And so that example shows that with a relatively small amount of money, these faith groups can develop projects like buy a few kites, make them up and fly them to help support their communities. Another myth, they don't want to help people they don't approve of. Now, we saw for ourselves that service was a part of the ethos of our faith groups. During the pandemic, we saw churches and temples feeding hundreds of people, if not thousands of people, whether they were from the same culture, same ethnicity, they worked with those groups. We also came across Churches for Positive Change, who, concerned about the effect of COVID disproportionately on the Black community, felt that they needed to go to speak to public health about it and to find out how they could work with their communities to address the problem. They were absolutely dumbfounded that actually the public health were aware of certain health problems and had never communicated that to the communities for them to work collaboratively with public health. Another myth, they won't deliver to the community. Again, we saw faith groups delivering to the communities. They were out doing health checks, and improving in people's chances of a better life by giving them very good advice through their expertise. A comment says a good way of interacting with people is to visit the churches and faith groups. And that was a non-church going person that said that. And the final myth that I'm going to mention, and there are more myths, was they only work with their own community. In fact, our faith groups want to utilize their buildings. The buildings are in the communities. They are seen. They're not people that are hard to reach, as they're normally called. The communities, the faith communities, are able to reach not only the disabled, they reach the children, they reach the young people, they reach the elderly, and they do this through volunteering. They might not call it volunteering, but they reach it through volunteering. And one person said it was lovely to see the children from the community join in. So person-centered approach, you can see throughout the conversations that I've been having, that person-centered approach is really crucial to the community, to faith groups. They build a sense of trust. They build, because they are experts in their field in reaching out to local community. They understand individuals, they connect well with them, and boy, do they have fun when they come to these centres to take on board health and well-being. Now I will hand over to Debo and some ladies, some lovely ladies that we've worked with. Thank you.
I've been doing these sessions this is my third year. And they're at the Gurdwara in Wolverhampton, Manda Street, Gurdwara. Yeah. And then their sessions are open to everybody, from people from all different types of the community. Anybody is welcome. Usually I get ladies of different ages, mostly the ladies over 50. They can bring children with them as well. So they are open and they're very friendly. So nobody's competing against anybody. We start off with yoga sessions, exercise. We talk about everything really. About holidays or where they've been, how's life is today, and any problems really. They're very open sessions. They're warm sessions as well, welcoming. I think it's very important to take a person-centered approach because you need to get to know the individual. There may be things that they don't want to show. They might be maybe frightened or anxious about, maybe. They might have health conditions. So person-centered approach to me is, I usually have a one-to-one conversation, and I make them feel welcome, and anything they can't do or are not able to do, that's fine. Anything, if it hurts, don't do the session. If they can't do it, that's fine. Do whatever they can do. And it is important because you get a positive feedback from the participants after. They know I am not just coming in, delivering for an hour and going. It's very, very important to have a centered approach so we can get positive outcomes from them. I make the session welcoming to everybody, no matter what caste or religion they are, because these sessions are open to everybody, okay? Respect everybody's culture as well. So by making it safe, like we don't talk about any different religion or anything, they come in, they do their yoga session, they do their movement, do their exercise, and then we all converse in different conversations at the end. So we all talk about, we've all got the same needs, and we talk about holidays, what have they done today? So we don't talk about religion, so everybody's treated the same, with respect. Yes. The difference that is made, well, it's word of mouth, and if they're enjoying it, they go out in the community, spread the word, saying they're both delivering sessions, very welcome, come and join. They'll bring somebody else with them as well. So we're increasing the numbers who are coming. Because when I deliver sessions, I'm not sitting in one spot either. I'm walking around and adjusting as well. I'm asking them first if they don't mind me just adjusting the body. They say, no, that's fine. And that is important. They know I'm taking more care and and asking them if, whether they've learned anything or can we do anything differently. And that is very important. Well, at the end of every session, I usually get a feedback how well the session went, what didn't went well. And usually they know me now. They usually, open, they'll be honest with me, what we can do better. And at the moment, we're doing some stretching, different kind of Pilates work as well, incorporated in the yoga session. I also, towards the end, in relaxation, I'm delivering some Tai Chi moves as well. They love that Tai Chi moves. And it's all about getting feedback from them. So they are happy to tell me what isn't working well for them. I think it's made a lot of difference doing in the faith centre, because the faith centres are the main community centres where the people will go to. It's for doing the prayers. It's connecting with the local community. The community centres are very important. In some community centres, I do know there's a lady who comes, holds the office for benefit information. So all sorts of things involving the community. I know in the faith centres they do trips as well, abroad as well. So this is the main place if you're delivering anything in a community centre, because the word gets around. I love doing the sessions at the faith centres. I have seen a lot of improvement in the ladies. They come back, and especially I got 3 ladies where I used to teach at a college. I've got 3 English ladies who come because they heard about the yoga sessions in the faith centre. They're just enjoying it so much. So it's been good for me, for my health as well. And more and more people are joining in. So that's nice to look forward to. Yes, I do enjoy it. Keeps me going.
Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been doing these activities for?
I've got lots of time on my hands, so I come to this class and it helps me with my back problem and my neck problems, like, I've got arthritis and I've got other problems as well. So when I come here, the yoga is taught the right way, so it does help me in my health.
I'm now retired, but before I took on these sessions, I was just busy. And 2 years now, I've been working with these yoga sessions with Deb, and it's really made me have time for myself. So, yeah.
I've been doing these sessions with Deb since 2021, just after lockdown, when she first started it.
They do make me feel energised, because sometimes when it was the other Gurdwara, I used to walk up and I was breathless. Once those were done and going home, it was like a breeze just to walk back home, and a lot more supple, and I can move my body parts, if that makes sense.
We built up friendship groups, made a lot of friends, so it was more like a social as well, social bit, and also exercise helped me with my health as well.
It makes me feel good, it makes me feel energetic, and I feel I've got a bit more mobility, you know, because I'm being taught the right way. I do feel it benefits my health.
They've made me feel more healthier and also reduce my cholesterol because I'm doing a lot more and eating better because it gives you that buzz.
It's something to get up for in the morning.
I do enjoy that. I really do enjoy it. There's a social aspect, you come and meet people, you know.
And it's good because I know a lot of these people anyway, been with them for a while now. So it's like more of a, what should I say, more friendly, and it's not strange to me and where I would be, because I do suffer from depression and anxiety as well. So I know what I'm doing and who I'm with. So it just helps with my health, you know.
I think it's the socialising as well, which if you don't go out and do something, you don't get a chance to have friends of your own, a social life of your own. It's all centred around the family. So.
Oh, she's a really friendly person. So we just have a laugh and joke as well, you know. So, you know, we do a lot of laughters. Yeah.
She is a very good instructor, very good, and we do enjoy. And she does ask everybody if we can't do it, like, do whatever you can. And she goes around everybody asking if everybody's okay.
She does them at your pace, because I joined almost 2 years after she'd started. So people have moved on, and she was like, no, you go at your pace. If you can't manage the full exercise, go as far as you can. And she's very supportive. So, yeah, I found a good one there.
You know, we've built up a friendship, and to see them, you know, I feel happy.
It's good for you all round, socially, exercise-wise. You know, it's good for the body, so there's a lot of pluses, yeah.
Fantastic, and thank you to everyone for that insight. I think we can really see from the examples that we've been shared there how taking a person-centered approach and the power that has. And I think how now people can start to build that into the way that you work. And again, just to reiterate before we move on, them 4 pillars: to understand, connect, engage, and listen and learn and share. So I said about resources before. We've got 11 engagement fact sheets on our website. Just highlighted 4 of them on the screen for you there, around engaging older people, understanding children and young people, engaging all women in sport and physical activity, and supporting disabled people from low income households. And also on the next slide, I would like to share some that have come through Gorga. So these resources have been produced from the evaluation and learning of our first 3 years of the Get Out, Get Active delivery. And these resources were developed with the learning gathered in localities and that were delivered at place-based opportunities. So I would eagerly encourage you to go and check out the Gorga website and the link that's there and going into the chat. Thank you, Helen. But before we move on any further, there is also going to be another link put in the chat around a poll for today. So yeah, if you could please fill that in. Thank you, Alex. And Adam, I will leave it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Just while you're filling out that poll, I'm just going to wrap up. Really useful advice from a number of people there today. It's great to hear from both deliverers and participants. I wish all deliverers and leaders could be a bit more Debo. They sound amazing. The sessions that she is running and the engagement in participants is brilliant. That's exactly what we need. But thank you for attending today's webinar. That is it. I just want to encourage everyone to use the resources and the links that we've sent through and put in the chat. As you might have picked up in the chat, you will receive a recording of this, so you can go back in and look at some of the links and rewatch the sessions. But thanks for joining. Thanks to all the presenters, and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday and week. Thanks all. Bye-bye.